Today we're going to be looking at RI.7.9. Analyze how two or more authors writing about the same topic shape their presentations of key information by emphasizing different evidence or advancing different interpretations of facts. So we're going to be looking at two different authors and how they look at the same topic but how they view it differently and give different information. So let's look at our text today. And before we begin, I want you to think about an artist. And let's say this artist, you have two different artists, and they're given the same set of paint and the same view. Let's say they have a view of a mountain, and they're given the same paint and the same materials, but one artist creates this mountain and it looks very scary and gloomy, and then another artist creates with bright colors, it's very peaceful. Well, you're looking at the same subject, it's the mountain, and you have the same materials, but the way the artist presents that subject has a different effect, and it comes across as different, and has a different meaning. And the same way is with an author. An author can take the same topic, but the way they present the information and differently, and you can have a different view on it. So, that's kind of what we're talking about today. So let's look at our first story. It's called Global Warming, Why? By Rex Woodbury. Scientists who study climate models and climate patterns are concerned that the Earth's average temperature seems to be increasing. They also report that a warm-up of even a few degrees will have far-reaching effects on climate, wildlife, human food production, and fresh water supplies. Why is this happening? To understand global warming, imagine that our planet is wrapped in a blanket. The blanket is made up of carbon dioxide and other gases that collect and trap the sun's heat in the Earth's atmosphere. It's important to understand that this blanket serves as protection from the intensity of the sun and its dangerous rays. The burning of fossil fuels and other human activities, however, have changed the makeup of this protective covering. In simple terms, by adding more gases, we've added more layers, and the blanket traps more heat than it should, heat that changes our environment. So let's look at our question. And obviously this is our first author, and if we said it's two authors in the same topic, well, this whole topic is about global warming. So let's look at the question. How does the author's purpose shape the focus of the account? So we've got to figure out what is the author's purpose and his focus here. So let's look at some key words here. So we know that in the text, it's talking about, it says that the scientists who study climate models and patterns are concerned that the Earth's average temperature seems to be increasing. And even the title helped me. Global warming, why? Well, this is all talking about how global warming, the temperature is increasing. And then this sentence right here was very helpful to me. Why is this happening? And then this whole paragraph here would be the reasons that the global warming is happening. So this is the answers, the why. So it looks like they're telling us the problem and why it's happening. And it's all about global warming. So let's look. So the focus of the first account, we could pretty much just say, is it gives us an explanation about global warming and the why. So if we were going to write that in there, that's what we would say. It explains the basic of what global warming is and why it's happening. So if you'll notice, it says focus account 2. So now we've got to read this second account and see how it's different and see what the focus is. So let's look at this second account. And this is the side effects of warming by D. Garja. Global warming widely impacts both Earth's climate and the environment as a whole. The Arctic regions in particular are suffering due to climate change. Glacial ice is melting at an alarming rate. The amount of ice lost in recent years equals the combined area of Alaska, Texas, and Washington. This change to the Arctic landscape endangers many of the creatures living there. Polar bears, for example, depend on glacial ice. It allows them to travel far from land to open water to find their favorite prey, seals. A decrease in this ice limits the bears' ability to reach their prey, thus reducing their chance of survival. Only by changing human habits that contribute to climate change, such as the use of fossil fuels, can we stop the harmful effects of global warming on wildlife? Now, once again, if I'm going to have to look at the focus of this article, I'm going to look in the text, and the title, once again, helps me, the side effects of warming. So that right there tells me that this whole paragraph and this whole passage is talking about the side effects of it. Now, this focus, they don't even, from looking at this text, did they tell us what global warming was here? They didn't. They're all, if you notice, I keep seeing where it's relating it to animals and the danger it's causing them and the effects that it's causing. So I don't really see anything about the why here. I only see the effect, what it's doing to the Arctic here. So let's go back, and like here, we can just fill it in real quick, just so we can remember. Let's look. Oh, come on now. So the first article, we said it explained. It explained global warming. And the whys. So it tells us, explains it, and tells us the whys. Whereas Focus 2 only explained the effects. It didn't tell us what it was. It just told us the effects. What it was, how it harmed, and the different things it harmed in the Arctic. So, ideas in both accounts. Well, in both accounts, it's saying that global warming is the cause. Because it talks about global warming in both of them. Now, when you go to look at these stories, you can see that's the thing they have in common. The topic is global warming. But in the first account, it's pretty much telling you what it is and why it's happening. Whereas in the second one, it's telling you the effects. And they both are telling you that global warming is the cause of the problem. So we can see how they are alike. So, let's continue. And let's look at this second question. Now, before we look at the second question, let's look at the close read. The accounts here and on the previous page both tell about global warming, but they use information differently. Underline any facts in this account that are similar to in the first one. So let's look for any facts that we see that are similar to the first one. So I know this is definitely similar. Global warming impacts both the Earth's climate and the environment as a whole. It mentioned that. That would be something that would be very similar. Also, where it mentions it endangers the animals, it mentioned that, but it didn't go in detail about it in the first section. Something else, it talked about on the humans. It talked about that in the first one, how humans were the part of the problem. So here we say, and they're the only ones who can contribute and change it. So that's the ways that it's the same. And then they want us to put a star by the information that was unique to only this passage. So what do they talk about in this passage that's not mentioned in the other passages? Well, one, they mention, if you'll notice, that this change depends on the Arctic landscape. That's something new. Okay. Another thing they mention new is a decrease in this ice limits the ability. That's one of the effects, that the ice limits their ability to reach their prey, so the bears aren't able to get to their prey. Another thing is it allows them, this comment right here about it allowing them to find their prey. Well, that wasn't mentioned in the first story. And then there's one more thing. Oh yes, the fact about the amount of ice lost over the years combined, that's an effect. Is combined to Alaska, Texas, and Washington to the size of it. So that wasn't mentioned. So that would be an effect, is how much of a loss that is causing. So let's look at the question. Now that we know that information, the information that was the same and different. How does the focus of this account differ from the account on the previous page? So we got to look at our keywords here. So when I'm looking for my keywords, first of all, how. That's the verb. We're looking at how what? The focus differs. That's the key word here. So how does the focus of one account differ from the other account? Differ means how are they different? So how is this story account different from the first story? So let's look at our choices. Instead of telling the cause of global warming, it explains an effect. Well, let's look. So instead of telling the cause of global warming, well, in the first story, did they tell us the cause? Well, I think that's what we said was the thing, was the cause. It told us the why, because that's in the title, why. And did it explain an effect here? Well, I think we had talked about, looking back in the story, it told us several effects. It made it where they couldn't get their prey. It was causing problems through the spread of like as big as Texas and those areas it mentioned. So to me, that would be an effect. But let's make sure. Let's look at B. Instead of describing one solution, it tells about many possibilities. Well, in this one, let's look in the story. Let's go back. Does it tell us a solution to the problem here? Instead of one solution, it tells many possibilities. No. The first account, because if you notice, the first part of the problem is the first story, and the second section is the second story. So in the first story, does it tell us a solution? Well, let's go back and look. No. It only tells us the why. It doesn't tell us a solution. So it cannot be answer choice B because it doesn't tell us a solution at all in the first story. Well, look at C. Instead of talking about glacial ice, it describes polar bear habits. Well, it talks about both of them, so that can't be true. Instead of naming climate changes, it warns of future problems. Well, it does warn of future problems, but it doesn't just name the climate changes. Remember, it actually warns you about the climate changes and the future climate changes. So you have to look for those details and make sure that they're exactly accurate. And from looking at this, I know from just filling out this chart right here, when I filled it out, that my answer had to be A. Because in A, it told us, the first story told us the causes, and the second one told us the effect.